Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're exploring a financial riddle that really affects millions across America, particularly in Vietnamese immigrant communities.
Right.
I'm talking about this rich-poor paradox.
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
We've seen sources talking about families who, on paper have a net worth that's just staggering. We're talking maybe $700,000, maybe over $1 million.
Easily, yeah.
Yet they live in this state of absolute hyper-frugality, stashing cash in kitchen freezers, meticulously washing and reusing Ziploc bags.
Oh, yeah, the plastic bags.
And treating the air conditioning like it's some kind of moral failing to turn it on.
Right. It's not just being thrifty, it's something deeper.
Exactly. It's this deep, almost paralyzing financial fear. So today, we're diving into the money taboo, this kind of structured silence around finances.
That's a good way to put it, structured silence.
Our mission today is pretty clear. Trace the historical trauma that built this wall, figure out what this secrecy is actually costing U.S.-based families in, lost wealth.
Real dollars, yeah.
And crucially, arm you, our listener, with some communication scripts, some actual ways to start these really difficult conversations.
And we should probably clarify, we're looking at this through the lens of different generations, right? Gen 1, the immigrants themselves,
Right.
Gen 1.5, who came as kids, and Gen 2, born and raised here.
Yeah, that distinction feels vital because the challenges, they're really unique for each group, aren't they?
Absolutely. And this money taboo, it's not just being shy about money, it's an ingrained cultural thing, a psychological mechanism almost, where discussing personal finances, income, whatever, it's basically forbidden.
Forbidden how? Impolite.
Yeah, impolite, or maybe seen as boasting if you have wealth, if you're struggling. Silence is the only way to avoid that terror of losing face.
Mut-mut.
Exactly. Mut-mut. It's a huge deal.
That fear of mut-mut. It seems like the absolute linchpin holding all this secrecy together. So, okay, let's trace it back. We're decades removed from the main refugee waves. What specific things drove this extreme caution, this impulse to see all market investing as just gambling?
Well, the roots are deeply traumatic. You can trace it straight back to 1975, the collapse.
Okay.
So the first big factor is that historical trauma around the banking system itself. When the South Vietnamese government fell, people lost everything overnight. Savings just vanished.
Wow. Everything.
Everything in the banks. So that event created this profound, deep-seated distrust in formal financial institutions.
Even here in the U.S., with all the regulations.
Even here. The logic, though it might seem flawed from our perspective, is the system failed catastrophically once, taking everything. Why trust this new system?
So a U.S. bank feels just as risky as the one back home that collapsed.
That generation, often yes. Safety means tangible, things you can touch.
Like gold. Real estate.
Exactly. Gold, real estate, and famously, cash hidden at home, like in the freezer.
Okay, so that's the trauma. Then the constant vigilance, the saving plastic bags, that becomes the scarcity mindset. Is that the second piece?
That's exactly it. The scarcity mindset, or Noisa Kanhim, after living through wartime, extreme poverty, maybe refugee camps, that mindset tells you scarcity is permanent. It's always just around the corner.
Even if objectively they're quite wealthy now.
Even then, it explains the hoarding tendencies, the refusal to spend even small amounts on comfort like AC. It's a survival mode stuck on high.
That makes a certain kind of psychological sense. But the emotional weight, the shame around talking about money, how does that fit in?
That brings us to the third leg, shame culture, or thedden face. In this cultural context, financial struggle isn't just a circumstance. It's deeply tied to personal and family honor.
So it's not, I made a bad investment.
It's I am incompetent. And worse, I have brought shame upon my family. The failure is seen as reflecting on the entire collective.
Wow. The stakes are incredibly high then.
Immensely high. Which makes silence the necessary defense. It's how you protect the group's honor.
And the data backs this up, right? We saw research showing, 82% of Vietnamese American adults said their parents never discussed specific income with them.
That's right. 82% never talked specifics. And maybe even more telling, 91% said they were taught only about saving, not investing, just saving.
Just hoard the cash, don't make it grow.
Pretty much. And that specific data point, that's where this protective culture really clashes with the U.S. financial system, especially for the younger generations.
Okay, let's get into that class, the actual measurable impact. This cultural silence, it's costing Gen 1.5 and Gen 2 real money, isn't it? What are the biggest blind spots?
The biggest, most immediate cost is what you could call lost free money.
Free money? How?
Because the focus from Gen 1 is so intensely on cash, safety, avoiding institutions, they often completely miss teaching their kids about basic U.S. financial tools, like tax-advantaged accounts or employer benefits.
You mean like 401ks?
Exactly. We see this constantly online in forums, people sharing stories, young Vietnamese Americans missing out entirely on the 401k employer match.
That's literally leaving money on the table. Tens of thousands over a career.
Tens of thousands easily, because they either didn't understand it or they were taught that anything involving the stock market is done back gambling?
Gambling, right.
Or they just had that inherited distrust of free money linked to a formal institution. It sounds too good to be true, so it must be a trick.
Wait, but isn't the 401k match often just part of the onboarding paperwork?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they just sign up? Was the fear really that strong? Rejecting money handed to them?
You have to understand the underlying message they received for years. Keep cash safe, avoid debt, trust nothing official.
Okay.
So when an employer says, hey, put your money in this account tied to the volatile stock market and we'll add more, the gut reaction fueled by that scarcity mindset is often, nope, too risky, too complicated. Safety trumps growth. Every time.
And that choice, that safety first at all costs, leads straight to what you called investment paralysis.
Exactly. While the older generation feels secure with assets, they can touch the house, gold bars, cash under the mattress.
Right.
That reliance on low-yield, tangible assets basically guarantees that inflation eats away at the family's wealth over the long haul.
So the very thing meant to protect the family's future is actually hindering it.
It creates a massive hurdle for generational wealth transfer. Gen 2 gets it, they understand index funds, diversification, tax advantages, but getting past that deep inherited belief that all investing is a dumb buck, that's the struggle.
The parents sacrificed everything for the kid's future, but the protection strategy is now capping that future's potential.
Precisely. It's a tragic irony in a way.
And if that wasn't enough financial pressure cooker, Gen 1.5 and Gen 2 often get hit with the remittance guilt, the Asian parent tax, as some call it online.
Oh, yeah. That's a huge one. This is where that cultural obligation slams right into American economic reality.
The sandwich generation squeeze.
Totally. You're expected culturally to send money back home, support parents or relatives overseas.
Right. Remittance.
Well, you're also trying to build your own life here, pay off student debt, save for a house, fund your own retirement.
It sounds incredibly stressful, like a constant balancing act.
It is. It's a major source of anxiety, and you see fierce debates about it online constantly. People are trying to figure out how to fulfill that duty without sabotaging their own financial future. The boundaries are often really blurry or non-existent.
Wow, that's a heavy emotional tax on top of everything else.
Yeah.
Anyone who's dealt with family financial secrets probably recognizes that specific knot of anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've laid it out. This silence is costing people potentially tens of thousands in lost 401k matches, guarantees wealth, erosion from inflation, plus this remittance pressure. Just seeing the problem isn't enough, though. How do we move to action? Where does someone even start this conversation without causing a massive family fight?
Yeah, and that's the critical part. You need to shift the entire frame of the conversation. The goal isn't to criticize or demand. It's to help Gen 1 move from their old mindset, which is basically not talking about money protects my child. You need to help them get to a new mindset. Not talking means my child is vulnerable. They might make the same painful mistakes I did.
That's a fundamental shift. How do you even trigger that? You can't just walk in and say, Mom, Dad, show me your bank statements.
Oh, absolutely not. No. You don't start with numbers, ever. You start with empathy, with history, with storytelling.
Okay, like how?
Instead of asking, how much do you have saved? Try asking about their financial journey.
Their journey?
Yeah, like, tell me about when you first came here. How did you manage to save your first $10,000? What was that like? Or what was the hardest financial lesson you had to learn back then?
Focusing on the story, not the balance sheet.
Exactly. Stories humanize the struggle. They provide context that numbers just can't. And here's a key tip. Encourage them to share the mistakes.
The mistakes, not the successes.
The mistakes are where the real learning is. If they can share, I trusted the wrong person once and lost $20,000, that's incredibly valuable.
Because it teaches the next generation without them having to repeat the painful lesson.
Precisely. It reframes sharing wisdom as an act of protection, which fits their original motivation, and it subtly chips away at that shame culture by acknowledging that challenges happen.
Okay, I see. get them to share wisdom to protect the kids. That leads to the aha moment for Gen 1.5 and 2, right? Asking about vision and protection, not just assets.
That's the pivot. The actionable scripts need to focus on shared goals, on collective safety.
So instead of how much money do you actually have?
You ask something like, looking ahead, how do you envision being cared for in your later years? Or a really practical one. If there were, God forbid, unexpected medical bills, how would we make sure those costs don't wipe out the assets you worked so incredibly hard to build for the family?
Ah, that positions you as an ally. How do we protect our family assets, not what are you hiding?
Exactly. You're on the same team looking out for the collective good. And that conversation flows naturally into the most critical action step.
Which is?
Estate planning. Wills, trusts, powers of attorney.
Oof. That feels like another taboo topic talking about death.
It absolutely is for many, which is why you must frame it not as planning for death, but as an act of profound love and protection for the living family members.
How do you do that effectively?
Use the practical risk as the motivator. If they're hesitant, you explain the very real, very severe financial consequences of not having a plan.
Like what?
Like the fact that dying without a will or trust, especially with assets like real estate, can lead to probate court, legal battles between siblings, huge delays, and potentially losing up to 30% of the family's total asset value just to legal fees and administrative costs.
30%? That's huge.
It's huge. And for parents who spent their lives scrimping and saving every penny, the fear of losing nearly a third of their life's work to legal wrangling can be a much stronger motivator than the discomfort of talking about death.
So the pitch is, this plan protects our family from conflict, and it protects your legacy from being wasted on lawyers.
Precisely. It's about preventing loss and ensuring their wishes are actually followed.
Okay, that 30% statistic is definitely a powerful tool for that conversation. So finally, let's circle back to that really tricky one. Remittance guilt. How do you set boundaries there without triggering more shame or conflict?
This one requires clarity and firmness, grounded in reality. The core principle has to be sustainable support over unsustainable support.
Sustainable versus unsustainable.
Yeah. The younger generation, Gen 1.5 or 2, needs to do the math first. Calculate their own non-negotiable expenses, their essential savings goals, especially for retirement, so they don't become dependent later.
Right. Put your own oxygen mask on first.
Exactly. Only after securing their own foundation can they determine a realistic, sustainable amount they can commit to sending home regularly without burning themselves out financially or emotionally.
And the script for communicating that. It needs to be clear, right? No ambiguity.
Crystal clear and firm. Delivered with love but without apology. Something like, Mom, Dad, I want to support you. Based on my own financial needs and future goals, this is the amount I can commit to sending consistently long term. I need to build my own foundation now so that I can be in an even stronger position to help later if needed.
And then stick to it, even with the pushback or the guilt trips.
You have to. It's tough, really tough. But agreeing to an unsustainable amount now just kicks the can down the road. It sets everyone up for a bigger crisis later when you inevitably can't maintain it. Sustainable support is the only truly loving approach in the long run.
Wow. Okay. So wrapping this up, this money taboo, it's incredibly complex, isn't it? It's deeply rooted in real historical trauma in this powerful shame culture.
Definitely.
But the solution isn't really about spreadsheets or investment strategies initially. It's about communication, strategic, empathetic, specific communication.
That's the heart of it. And we are seeing a shift, Gen 1.5 and Gen 2 are actively seeking financial literacy, trying to bridge that gap and build on the sacrifices their parents made.
It feels like a generational responsibility almost.
It really is. And it leads to a provocative thought, doesn't it? If that original silence, that structured silence, was fundamentally about protection.
Right. Protecting the family, protecting face.
But now we see that same lack of transparency actively costing U.S.-based families huge opportunities for growth, missing out on tax credits, 401k matches, decades of compound interest. Does that mean it's time for us, for the younger generations, to embrace a kind of strategic transparency?
Strategic transparency to secure the collective generational wealth that the silence was originally meant to protect.
Maybe. It's something to think about. How do we talk openly enough to leverage the U.S. system without triggering the old fears and shames?
That's a heavy question to lead folks with. If you found this deep dive useful, if it sparks some ideas for maybe starting those tough family conversations, definitely hit subscribe. Share this with anyone in your circle who might need that little nudge.
Yeah, please do.
And tell us in the comments. We really want to hear from you. What strategies have you used to set healthy financial boundaries around remittances? How did it go? Or maybe, what's one small step you took to break the money silence in your own family? Let's learn from each other.